If spreadsheets make you sweat or give you hives like me, but you still want a wildly profitable business, this episode is for you. My friend Megan Hale is coming on the podcast today, and she is really going to help you make money feel magical again. Or maybe ever. Maybe it's never felt that way for you. You guys know I love talking about money mindset, money attraction, knowing our numbers. I know it's not as much fun, but it's really important. And Megan is just a gem. I met her at this totally random retreat in May. I mean, I say random, and it was not in May, it was in July. uh this was a Rootable retreat. Shout out to Laura Sprinkle, who's the CEO of Rootable. It was invitation only. I had no idea what I was getting into, but I had never been to Maine before, and I knew I wanted to go. And there was a lot of entrepreneurs there and a lot of really successful entrepreneurs. And it was really fun. It was totally outside of my comfort zone. And Megan was one of the incredible friendships that I walked away with. So let me tell you a little bit about Megan before I get started. She is the CEO and founder of DreamMoney. This is a strategic business planning platform for solo entrepreneurs to know their numbers and have healthy margins. She helps them map out sustainable revenue plans, manage their cash flow, and step into their most empowered relationship with money. We are going to be hosting together a demo so you guys can see DreamMoney in action. So make sure that you write down where the link is going to be at our show notes at elizabethhenson.co/E212. This is episode 212. We're also going to get a short link going at elizabethhenson.co/dreammoney. But make sure you stay till the end so you can get all that information and know what you're signing up for. But DreamMoney is a really incredible platform. Megan is a startup. You guys know that I love supporting these tech startup companies when they get off the ground and get going. It's so much more rewarding to help people get going than it is to support huge companies, right? We are all small businesses. We are all women-owned businesses trying to make our way. And it's really such an honor and a pleasure to have Megan on with us today. So let's get started so you guys can learn all about DreamMoney and what this platform is all about. Welcome back to the Messy Success Podcast, where your growth is our favorite topic. I'm Elizabeth Henson, and on this channel, we share behind the scenes of building a business using our community-based marketing and real-life lessons to make business easy and profitable. We help you combine your Dharma, your skills, and your offers to build the business of your dreams on your terms. I don't give average business advice. I hate to tell you, but I'm here to help you unlock your superpowers that are already within you. So make sure you follow along, hit that subscribe button, and I promise you'll start becoming more magnetic and see your own community grow around your brand. Oh my gosh. Hi, Megan. I'm so excited to have you here today on the Messy Success Podcast. I told everyone how we met in Maine and had such an adventure in the woods. And I am really excited to kick this off by having you tell everyone what DreamMoney is and how you came up with the idea.
Okay, I love this. First of all, Maine was so fun, right? So glad we had that time together. So DreamMoney, for everyone who's new to this, is a strategic business planning software platform for solo entrepreneurs who want to really get smart with their money, who also want to map out sustainable growth plans. I think the sustainable part is very, very important. That's a core value of mine. Also learn how to manage their cash flow so you can really scale with confidence. So DreamMoney started with my own personal journey of trying to figure out how to approach money in a way that felt intuitive, but also holistic, but also strategic. And that's really the birthplace of this whole framework. And so DREAM actually is an acronym. It stands for Deliberate, Reliable, Easeful, Abundant, Meaningful Money. So we don't just want to help people step into more money, but a very specific type of more money.
Okay, so that's like your actual framework within the platform is DREAM, the acronym. Oh,
Yes.
that's so cool. I
Yeah.
love that. Okay, now I want to hear a lot of people recently have been like, Liz, do you know anyone that is creating an app or knows how to create an app? And I know that is like totally not what we're here to talk about, but I want to hear a little bit about just your journey from this being an idea to like, this needs to be like an actual app or software. So, like, what got you
Yeah,
from point A
yeah.
to point B?
Yeah, so I think so Dream Money, the framework has been around for a very long time in spreadsheet form. I created it back in 2017 and then started teaching it to people at the end of 2018. And then in 2020 we went through like our first 50K launch. So we had, hundreds of people come into the platform back then. And I noticed that people were really hesitant of working with spreadsheets because they were afraid that they were going to break them.
Yep,
There's also
guilty.
like yes, there's also like a lot of math trauma that was showing up for people because like if I break this equation, how do I get it back? And am I even doing this equation right? And all this stuff starts to show up just in the medium that we were in, right? And so I knew back then that I thought this could really be a great software. It could be a really great app. I had no idea what that looked like at the time. I had no idea how to even build an app. And honestly, I still don't. I'm what you call a non-technical founder. Okay. So there's technical founders who have a tech background. They know all the things about building custom software. I am not that. I just really understand the methodology and I have created the IP and I hold the vision for the company. And so when it
Mm,
came time for us to build Dream Money, I had to find that technical partner. And thankfully, I put some posts out there of like, who do you know? Is there anybody in my network that had a connection for me? And it ended up being the answer was yes. And so I connected with the most amazing technical partner, so aligned values right off the bat. It's a woman of color owned and led software
ugh,
development team, which is very, very small to find. And I was building the software for mostly women entrepreneurs. So to know that it was being built for women by women and we aligned so strongly on values, it's just really been a dream working with them. So and I would say too, like Dream Money is custom software. Like we have so many equations and so many like logic series that we're building that are actually very robust. And the reason that I mention that is because depending on what it is that you're building, there's a lot of like no code platforms out there, like
mm.
Lovable. Like you can literally just type in what it is that you want to build and it'll write code for you. And so just keep in mind, like you might not have to go and spend thousands and thousands and thousands and thousands of dollars building custom software like I have. You could be able to just use a platform that's $20 a month and see how far that can take you.
Okay, because that's kind of without really knowing anything about it. I feel like that's kind of the advice I've been giving is like, I'm pretty sure there's platforms that make it really easy, but then there's obviously the route that you have to go because the complication and the equations and so forth, where you do have to
Yes.
make that like really big, insane, amazing
Yeah, I will
investment.
say, like, Dream Money, we have a very, very robust calculator in there that has so many different tiers. And like building that, I never in a million years thought that I would be doing something like that. But I
Yeah.
have used Lovable to create a couple of calculators too that are much simpler. So I would say start there, see how far
Okay.
you can get before taking that next step, because software development is very, very expensive.
Yeah. And I mean, it's a risk. And I love that that's the piece that you shared that I heard that I think is so important for listeners that you had proof of concept
Oh,
before you
yes.
took this step. So I
Oh,
think
yes.
the mistake a lot of people make is they're like, I have an idea. Let's go spend $100,000, but there's no proof of concept. So you already know this is something that people want. This is something they need. And this is something that they're already investing in.
100%. Like we've had like hundreds of people go through this methodology before I even went down that route. So we did have proof of concept, but we also had product market fit. And I think
Hmm.
that's like really understanding who it is that you're building this for and their unique needs, right? And how can you make sure your software is meeting those unique needs in the market? So I felt so confident moving in this direction because people were already buying the spreadsheets. So it's like, well,
Yeah.
let's take this up a notch and make so much more possible.
Yeah, and just make it easier for them. I love that when we really get into a groove with like our signature program or our signature offer. And like now we get to be a scientist on just making it better and better and better for the
Yeah.
consumers.
I'm so obsessed with that too. And I think that's the fun thing with software is that you're always going to be tinkering with your
Yeah.
product, right? And
Yeah.
I think sometimes when we're doing that with programs, like sometimes that's helpful and it leads to a return on investment. But I think with software, the likelihood of that leading to a return, like tweaking and improving and making the customer experience even better, I think you really do see that in that medium. So,
Yeah, yeah, for sure. Okay, so now I want to dig in a little bit to the nitty gritty of Dream Money and how it helps people. Because as a
yes.
business coach, here's what I see all the time. It's like my students want to do better with their money. They're kind of in that stage where they're separating church and state, where they're like, oh, shoot, I need to like separate my business money from my personal money. And they're just really in the beginning stages of budgeting.
Yeah.
And I keep telling them if you can just get to the other side, like it has been completely life changing for me to always know the financial health of my business and not
Yes.
have to guess whether I can make a big investment or plan for the big investment. But where
Yes.
I struggle as their coach is like getting them over that hump of like installing whatever system. I mean, I use YNAB. I cannot wait to try out Dream Money because you gave me a tour and I'm like, this looks incredible for my students. But what
Yes.
do you guys do to kind of just help get over that fear of like getting everything set up in the first place?
So I think the biggest hurdle of Dream Money is actually getting your numbers entered into our software. That
Yeah,
is
yeah.
always the hardest part, right? Because it's kind of like that's the most adulting task that I'm asking of all of our users because one of our biggest milestones inside Dream Money is we're going to calculate three very specific revenue goals for you, which we call your good, your better, and your best. And your
Mm,
good goal is going to be the same as your minimum viable revenue. Like, how much money does your business need to be generating that stabilizes seven key financial needs? And the reason those seven key needs are so important is because when it comes to having enough money, right, where you actually feel like, okay, I can have breathing room, the way that we create that is by making sure we're taking a holistic view of all of the needs that we need our money to provide for us. And a lot of times people are only thinking about three, maybe four, but not never seven. And so that's why
mm,
that approach is so incredibly key, right? But those seven key needs are going to be based on your financial needs, which are unique to you and your family. And so because of that, we need to look at what are your true financial needs. We don't just guess around numbers, we deeply know our numbers. And so the first step is getting all of those numbers entered into Dream Money so we can do this calculation for you. Okay. And once we can do that, then we're going to go into your financial dreams. And again, we're not just guessing how much this dream costs, we're actually going to price it out. Like if you want to take a killer vacation with your family, let's price it out. Like, how much money do you need? Because a lot of times we're like, oh, 5K, but then it ends up being like maybe 8,900. And then you're like, oh, I couldn't do all those things. It's like, well, let's do the due diligence of really planning for our dreams. And so then once those dreams are clarified, those help us calculate your better and your best. Okay. And so I know after hundreds of people going through this, is like, oh, I want to get to my goals. Like, well, if you want to get to your goals, we've got to put the numbers in. And so, how
yeah.
do we actually support our users? So, first of all, we have a monthly call with all of our users, and that's our kind of accountability hour where we sit down, we look at the numbers, we're talking about numbers in community. And that is usually very motivating that if people haven't put their numbers in, of like, okay, take 30 minutes right after this call and do it. It does not take as long as you think. Okay. That's the
Yeah.
thing. We
I
build
think
it up in
sometimes
our
people just
brain.
don't want to look, right? They don't want to say, they're
Yes.
afraid of what they might find.
Yeah, and I think that's the thing is that a lot of us feel like we're going to create a deeper sense of safety by not knowing. But how powerful do you feel not knowing how your money is going? It
Yeah.
actually feels scarier to not know.
Yeah. It's terrible.
And
Yeah.
so, yeah, like when you start to really look at it, like the first time you see your numbers, you might find some surprises. You might find that you've been paying for something for like, I don't know, 19 months that you haven't been using. And you're like, oh, that's weird. Let me cancel that and call that money back to me so I can do something more aligned with it. Like we find all these things when we look at our numbers. So the
Yeah.
accountability call is huge. And then we also just added for people who sign up. So Dream Money is either a quarterly subscription at $297 or it's a yearly subscription at $997. So when you go yearly, you all automatically get 2 months free, but you also get two bonus calls. And one of
Mm.
those is an actual onboarding/migration call where you're going to sit with somebody on my team as y'all enter all of your numbers into platform together. So it's kind of like, let's do this like side by side so you don't have to do this alone.
Yeah. And then once it's done, it's done. It's like
It's
literally just
done.
doing it that first time. Yeah.
It really is.
Yeah.
It's kind of like there's not many things when it comes to money that are kind of like a crock pot, like you set it and you forget it. But
Right.
entering in all of your current numbers is the closest thing to that crockpot, because if you cancel something, you cancel an expense, you just go and delete it. If you add something, you just go and add that one thing in. The grand
Yeah.
majority of the work has already been done. So you do it, you work hard once basically, and then you benefit hundreds and hundreds and hundreds of times after that one little piece of hard work.
Yeah, I love that. And when you and I talked before, I love how you explain the good, better, best, because it really opened my eyes to realize like I'm just sitting at my good goal. Like I feel like
Yeah.
I'm in this total like little safety bubble where my business is fine, all my expenses are fine, and like I'm paying my family, but like
Yep.
I'm not really like pushing the needle to break through the ceiling and get to my better best. And that's probably
Yes.
because I haven't like named it or looked at it outside of just hanging out at my good goal, right?
Yeah, very true. Now, I will say here at Dream Money, we say good is great, because if
Yeah.
you're already at good, like you have stable cash flow, which is a huge, huge milestone for many entrepreneurs, and that's
Yeah.
something to be celebrated. But once we're beyond good, it's really important to say what else. And these end up being conversations with your family. They could be conversations with your friends of like, what do I really want to create in my life these next 12
Yeah.
months? Like, what are my financial dreams that motivate me? And
Yeah.
oftentimes that's when I'm asking people to dream. And it's really interesting some of the things that can show up for people, because sometimes people have forgot that they're allowed to dream. They don't know that it's okay to want what they want. Like, what do I want? Like, they just haven't even asked themselves that question in a really long time. And I think that's
Yeah.
such a great opportunity to partner with your money for it to support your dreams. Like, that's what money is here to do. It's here to like support you, but also like expand you. And I think that's just such a beautiful exercise.
Yeah. And like you talked about saving up for the vacation. And I know like the mistake I used to make was just being like, okay, if I want to take my family, to Disney or whatever, let's say it's 10K and just like waiting. Like, let's just
Yeah.
wait until we have the money. And I hear my students say all the time. When really it's like, no, if you just put away $500 a month or even
Yeah.
less, like we can take the vacation in 2 years or whatever that looks like. But at
Oh,
least
yeah.
now with total certainty you're going to take it and you're just taking that
Yes.
money off the top, which is so much easier than just waiting for $10,000 to be sitting in your bank account.
Well, the reason it's so important to have those three financial goals is because once those targets are set, right? You're gonna have your own GBB goals, as we call them, GBB,
Yeah.
and I'm gonna have my own GBB. They're all gonna be different numbers because you have different dreams than I do, and those dreams cost different amounts than mine do, right? But once we have those numbers clarified, which are going to be very specific, by the way, like never in a million years do we have a goal that's like 25K or 10K. It's going to be like 12,325. The very,
Yeah.
very specific. Okay. And that's why people love them, because they're so meaningful. They're so personal. But once we have those goals, now we get to ask ourselves the very smart question of how are we going to reach those goals? And that's where your revenue plan comes in. What are you selling,
Mm,
right? At what price points? What are your sales goals? Like, what needs to happen for those numbers to actually become real? Because when you have a best goal, right, you might find that if you're already at your good goal, it might just be making a few little tweaks that make more revenue possible in your business. It might mean that you're adding on one new revenue stream in order to get to your best goal. That's the thing that I love so much about having these goals clarified, because now we get to like then really get into strategy of like, okay, what's the game plan for these being there?
yeah.
And we also layer in sustainability on top of that, right? Because not all money is dream money. There's I'm working way too hard money. I am undercharging money. I'm like, I can't take
Yeah.
on another client money, right? So we really think about what's the most sustainable way for you to reach these good, better, best goals.
Yes. Oh my gosh, I love that. And how many people that you work or not how many people, but like do you find a lot of people that you work with are in the beginning stages and like learning how to budget and learning how to save and sometimes they find a good surprise when they start looking at the numbers. I had a client the other day that was like, Liz, I finally did my numbers. You've been telling me to do it. And I put it off. And she said, I've actually been hitting my goal for like 4 months straight and didn't even know it. I thought I was still so broke.
Yes. That's the thing, because without these goals, we have no framework of measuring how well we're doing at
Yeah.
all. And
It's
the
just a
damage,
feeling.
yes, the damage that exists is that one, you can be shooting yourself the whole frickin' time when you're actually totally crushing it. And you
Yeah.
didn't even know it. But the other thing is that oftentimes we overestimate how much money we really need to be earning in order to reach our dreams. And when
Mm,
you actually do the calculation, You might like so many times people come in, I need a 7-figure business to have the dream life that I want and all these things. I'm like, I can guarantee you probably don't. Let's do it. And
No.
usually
No.
they do the calculation and their best goal is far lower than the 7 figures they thought that it would take. And isn't that nice? Because you've been putting all this financial pressure on yourself to earn more money when you actually don't even need to earn that much to begin with. You could probably
Yeah.
take the foot off the gas a little bit.
Yeah. No, I totally hear that because I have like the 7-figure eyeballs too, where I'm like, oh my God, I'm gonna be a millionaire one day. But I really know like to keep my family happy and my business happy, it's like I don't need to make that. Like,
Yeah.
of course that's nice, more money, more impact, but it's so freeing to know that it's like I can stay the same and be okay, but we're gonna continue like I want like, the vacations and
Yeah.
lift the ceiling a little bit.
Well, actually, the thing that we focus on is really focusing on lifting the floor. So a
Mm.
lot of times people are focused on lifting the ceiling, but what we want to do is help you lift the floor. And so if these are new terms for you,
Yeah,
if
tell
you
me
were to
what
look
that
at
means.
your cash flow, right, for the past 12 months, your highest earning month, that's going to be your ceiling.
Okay.
Your lowest earning month is going to be your floor.
Oh, I see.
So
I
the
see. Yeah.
higher your floor, right, the more
Yeah.
cushy you actually become because you're never going below that amount.
Yeah.
So let's say like if you raise the floor from 10K to 20K, that's a wildly different business.
Huge. Yeah.
Wildly different business, right? And so although the ceiling's important, that's our dreams, that's our stretch goals, that's where, some of those dreamy dreams live. It's actually the floor that's going to create the biggest felt difference when it comes to your cash flow.
And that's your stability too. I mean, I think I've always called that like what's your lowest minimum viable monthly whatever. I like the floor way better. It makes more sense. But I remember when I was teaching, weren't you a teacher too? Did we talk about that? Were you a teacher too?
Psychotherapist, no.
Okay, okay. I feel like everyone I work with is either a former therapist or a former teacher. That's funny. Um, so when I was trying to quit teaching, that's what I was documenting. I was a photographer at the time. So I was like, okay, I just need to see the floor at over $2,500 a month. And I'm
Yep.
making more than I was making teaching. So every month I would write down the total that I made, shooting weddings or whatever. And I slowly saw that 2,500 on repeat or above. So I
Yes.
knew that that's what my floor needed to be in order to quit. I just never called it that, like, which makes so much
Yes.
sense in my brain. So I'm so glad we had this discussion. But like that's the stability. Like I knew as long as I was
Yes.
hitting that number that I was okay, that I would do more than I was doing teaching.
Yes. And I think that that also creates psychological safety too, which is one of the things that I think a lot of us want from our money, even if we haven't named that. We want to know
Yeah.
that we are provided for. How do we know
Mm,
that we are provided for? By really understanding our floor.
yeah, yeah, absolutely. It makes it so much less scary and like anxiety ridden.
Yes.
Okay, I have a question about Dream Money. So as someone with like a small team of contractors, does Dream Money like have systems that make it helpful for like a team to go in and do some of the daily or weekly budgeting, you know, um is it set up for that?
No, so Dream Money doesn't do any accounting. So
Okay.
I would imagine like a team, that's probably one of the first things that you're going to outsource or delegate is accounting and bookkeeping. We do not do
Mhm.
any accounting or bookkeeping. So I want you to imagine that accounting is the practice of tracking how your money was spent. Dream Money
Mhm.
is the practice of helping you clarify how your money is earned. So we're very,
Ooh,
very
okay.
focused on the revenue plan and then how are we managing the cash flow as it's coming into the business? Because we do help all of our users set up key financial systems. So those 7 key needs that I was talking about earlier,
Yeah.
we want to make sure that each of those 7 key needs are being intentionally funded every single month or every 2 weeks. And so we set up an allocation cycle for all of our users. So as money is flowing into your business, money is flowing out to those 7 key buckets. So they're all being
Mm.
intentionally funded. And that's
Okay.
something that typically you as the CEO are going to do because those are financial decisions, right? You need to decide how much do I want to put in this bucket, this bucket, this bucket, etc.
Ooh, okay, this is really good because this is eye opening for me. I don't think I realized this before that it doesn't do so. It's great that I already have a budgeting tool, so I
Yeah.
wouldn't
Oh
have
yeah.
to necessarily replace that. It would
Yes.
be keeping that in place, and
Yes.
then Tell me the 7 key things again.
So your 7 key needs are going to be your personal pay, which is number one. We need to make
Yeah.
sure you're getting paid from your business. Your
Yeah.
business expenses, which also
Mhm.
number two, we got to make sure your business can get paid so you can continue to do your work. We also want to make sure we're funding your taxes because we all have taxes and those don't need to be
Yep.
scary. We can plan for
Yeah.
them. We also want to make sure that we have our team delineated quickly because or clearly because your team is one of the highest expenses as an entrepreneur. And so many times I see people whose team margin is way too high, which means that they are
Mm.
feeling immense financial pressure to pay for this expensive team and they're likely underpaying themselves. So we talk about healthy team margin. We also have reinvestment need. And this is the biggest one that I see people overlook as entrepreneurs. How much do you need to be setting aside to reinvest back into your business? Because a business is kind of like a baby. It's going to have all kinds of needs every single year. We need to be putting money back into our business in order to continue to grow. But this is also one of those needs that can get very high very fast because we live in a market where there are so many amazing things to buy, right?
Oh
So
my
you're
God.
like, oh, that
Yes.
sounds great. That sounds great. And so we really want to educate our users on how to think about reinvesting strategically and what are the right problems that you need to be solving in your business that are actually going to get you the return. Because a lot of times people spend money on solving the wrong problem and then they have all this money out that could be in, they could be in debt because of that investment decision. And they realize only after that, like, oh, that actually wasn't even something that I needed to invest in the first place. So then we also have business savings. This is one of those things that's going to create more psychological safety to making sure that we have some money set aside for if and when we need it. And then the last financial need that we really prioritize is giving. I have found
Mm.
that making sure we're setting aside a small portion of our revenue to give back to causes, organizations, candidates that we care about creates so much more meaning between us and the money that we want to earn because our money can have a larger ripple effect in the world. And so when we're thinking about those 7 key needs, this is going to be key for feeling like the money you have is truly enough. Because even if we were to miss one of those, right? Let's say
Yeah.
we don't have enough money to give. And let's say somebody's in need and you're like, oh my God, I feel like strapped and I can't help them. That's not a good feeling. So how can we actually zoom out, really look at all of the functions we want our money to serve for us and then put all those needs into our calculator so you have laser tight clarity on what those numbers are for you.
Oh my gosh, I love that. And so that everything's getting funneled into those 7 buckets, but then inside your budgeting tool that you use for operating expenses, that's where you're tracking like, oh, this specific marketing purchase or paying for ads or whatever it might be. So that
Yes.
all
And
happens off
eventually on
platform.
our product roadmap, we do want to build in accounting features because I don't
Mhm.
think accounting, and from my perspective, and it's a biased perspective, I will own that. But I think a lot of accounting is built for financial professionals and it
Yeah.
doesn't actually give you a lot of statistical like data as the
Yeah.
CEO. And so the
Yeah.
way that I want to build accounting features is a little bit different. So there's actually good data that you're like, so what do these numbers mean, first of all? And what do we need to change moving forward? Because it's
Yeah.
kind of like a post-mortem almost accounting. It's like, here's what happened. It already happened. So how do we actually use that clarity to move forward a little bit more intentionally?
Yeah. Yeah. I'm feeling smarter already and a little bit confused, but that's good because that means that my mind is learning something new.
Yeah, but tell me too, like, because I think the challenge with Dream Money is that there isn't a platform like this that exists. And so people
Right.
don't know why they need it. They're like, oh, well, I have a bookkeeper. It's like, awesome. That is great. Like, we want people to have a bookkeeper is a very key partner in your overall finance team, right? But I want you to imagine that for any successful business to really make more money and do it in a sustainable way, you're going to need a solid growth strategy, right? And so
Yeah.
for the past 10 years before creating Dream Money, I served as a fractional CGO, a chief growth officer. And any good growth officer is going to have a very solid footing in the numbers because that's one
Mhm.
of the first things that we're going to be looking at is how well is this business doing? What are the revenue gaps that are existing? Like, what do we need to focus on first? And so I want you to imagine that Dream Money is kind of like your co-CGO with a little blend of CFOing. Okay. So chief
Yes.
finance officer. So you're going to become so much more savvier when it comes to your numbers, to your cash flow, but really important, like mapping out your strategy. Because
Mhm.
we really want, there's so many times we're just winging it. we're just throwing spaghetti at the wall. We don't even know like what we're trying to get our businesses to do. And it's really hard to feel confident as a CEO when we don't have a game plan. And so Dream Money is really closing that gap for people.
Yeah, and I think this is like a tangible way of, I think what I call it is like your business model like has to match the metric of the revenue you want to make. And so many people are like, "Oh, I'm just going to create this $97 offer and sell it to my audience and great, I'll make 200K." And it's like, "Yeah, but the numbers don't number for your
Yeah.
audience of 2,000 people to
Yes.
have an offer at that price point to hit your revenue goals." And this
Yes.
is helping business owners like really see the strategy so that their business model can now match the money that they're trying to bring in, which is such an important like little learning curve that people go through in the beginning.
Oh my gosh, yeah. I mean, that is
Yeah.
so incredibly important because like once you have your revenue plan, then you can reverse engineer the marketing because we have
Yes.
like conversion rate. Like we have all these other things that we can weave in, right? Like if you have a tiny product like this, $97, and you want that to create financial stability for you, well, let's say that your good goal is 160K, right? Which it would probably
Yeah.
be 159, 711 in Dream
Yeah.
Money's world. But we can say, okay, well, if we're going to have this $97 offer, be responsible for getting to that revenue number, right? How many sales would have to happen for that to be true? And
Yeah.
once we have the number of sales, let's say it's 160 sales, right? Then we can ask ourselves, how big of an audience do I need to build where I can actually generate 160 sales? And we would do
Yes.
actually one more calculation. And when you see that number, then you're going to be able to be like, there's no way I can ask this $97 product to be responsible for reaching that revenue goal. And so
Yes. And then
it gives you
over
the
and over,
clarity
if
you
it's
need.
not even recurring, right? If it's a
Oh my
standalone
gosh,
purchase, now you've got to fight the recurring revenue problem, or opportunity, I should
100%.
say.
Yeah, and most people don't have a way of seeing how all of these decisions all work together. And so
Yeah.
that's one of the biggest things. So after we go through goals calculation, we then go into an exercise I call profit stacking, where you're basically laying out your whole entire business model all in one place. And that is
Yeah.
when a lot of like the rubber starts to meet the road of like, because it's 90% of the time when I'm looking at somebody's profit stacking or their profit stack, I'm like, you're working way too hard. You're trying to sell
Mm.
9 million things just to get to a financial like stable place. I'm like, how is your nervous system? And they're
Yeah.
usually like, I feel so burnt out. I feel so overwhelmed. It's like, yes, because your business model is requiring you to operate at like 120% every single day. And we need to
Yeah.
be building a business that allows us to function at like 80% on our best day. That's what
Yeah.
we need to be
Yeah.
doing, right? So, how do we actually restructure the business that allows you to do that?
Yeah, I know. I see it all the time with my people that just get stuck creating new offers all the time. And I'm like, I am tired just watching you create all these new offers. And there's no
Yeah.
sustainability, predictability in that. It's
Yeah.
like,
And
great,
I
you
think that
made a couple
that's
$1,000 like cash injection one time.
yes, and I think
That's a band-aid.
that's very indicative of like what so I see business as kind of like developmental phases, probably because of, a therapist backgrounds. Like we have to learn to crawl before we walk and those types of things. And so in my mind, we have the building phase, and that is very like we're creating lots of different offers. We're trying to figure out like what is our sweet spot? What's the result we want to help people get? Who do we most love working with? We feel like we are throwing spaghetti at the wall, and that's actually a really important piece of the process. You got to
Yeah.
try a lot of things. It's like dating, right? We got to date a few people or maybe lots of people to really figure out like, okay, what are my green flags? What are my red flags? What are my non-negotiables? All those things. It's the same thing with building a business. But if we stay there, you're never going to plant something that can really grow roots and create traction. And that's why it's so important to go from the building phase to the refining stage. That's when we really start to hone. We get a lot more clarity around all of the data that we gathered in the building stage. Once
Yeah.
we're in the refining stage, now we're clear. Now we're starting to systematize. Okay, how do I start to do this over and over again so it's very repeatable, very reliable? We're refining and honing that process. Then once we're out of the refining stage, now it's time to streamline all of this. Let's build key systems around this that opens up more capacity for ourselves and our business. And then once we have that, that's when we usually have a lot of like we're connecting our offers. So our offers are selling our other offers for us, which is really great for
Yes.
building that internal sales engine. And then only then, after we have gone from building, refining, streamlining, do we finally move into scaling. And I have like a
Mhm.
whole soapbox I can get on with like the way people misconstrue like scaling, because we're like, well, I'm just going to scale this. Like, you need to go through these 3 phases before you're even ready to scale, and do it in
Yeah.
a way that's not going to make you want to burn your business down.
Yeah, yeah. Or it's like the startups that want to go on a podcast tour, and I'm like, that's great, but you don't have a sales machine yet. So like you're going to get
Yeah.
all this
How are you
visibility
going to
and
leverage that?
yeah, 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 yeah. So we have to go backwards. Like, nope, let's build your sales machine first and then let's focus on the visibility.
Yes,
Yeah.
absolutely.
Oh my gosh. It's so fun though. I'm like it's all so fun to me. I'm like I spent so many years throwing spaghetti at the wall, and I'll say I'm entering the refining stage, and it's like wow, I'm working less hard and making more, and I have no desire to like create anything new because I've built something that allows me to be creative. Because as you're talking, I can already hear the resistance of my listeners. Like, that sounds so boring to do the same thing and scale.
Oh my gosh,
But if
it's so
you,
freeing, because
it's
you're
so
building
freeing.
your expertise, you're building mastery in what it is that you do, and the confidence that builds from that.
Yeah.
And as you're building IP, so your intellectual property is one of the biggest, best assets we can ever spend our time building, right? Because when you're
Mm,
clear on your signature process, there's all of these different ways that you can offer it that creates more creativity. Like, there's no boredom. I can promise you there is no boredom by doing it this
right.
way, because you could always take a little step of your process and create a brand new offer around that step. You're still doing the same thing. You're just shifting the way that it's delivered, right?
Yes,
And that's like the
exactly.
really fun part of business. So
Yeah.
we really help our users think about, what are the right questions I need to be asking myself? And even if you're just starting out, when people find Dream Money, they're like, oh my gosh, finally there's a framework that's like super solid. I'm clear on where I'm trying to get. I'm asking myself the right questions, right? But people who are even over 1 million who come into Dream Money, they're like, where has this been all my life? Because they have no idea
Mm,
how to even
hmm.
measure how well they're doing. They're making all this money, but they don't feel like any more successful. They have no idea where their money is going. They need financial systems. They need to understand their margins. They need to understand why they're making more and still feel broke. And they're like,
Yeah.
oh my gosh. So
Yeah.
no
So
matter what
imagine
stage
if
you're
someone
in,
making 30K gets started with Dream Money, how much easier that whole process is going to be. By the time they're making a
yeah,
million, it's going to be going to all the right places.
exactly. And so that's why I say, like, I'm a firm believer, like, the earlier you get into Dream Money, the better, because it will literally shave off years of your learning curve. So
Mm,
you're focusing your time and energy on solving the right problems with the right numbers. I
mm,
mean, y'all, if we just solve the right problems with the right numbers, it's just, I can't even tell you the difference that it makes for creating momentum and stability for yourself.
yeah.
But
Oh my
even if
God.
you're further along and you have sales down, you have your messaging and marketing down, and you have your offers built, like, when you can see it from this holistic lens, a lot of times people are like, oh, if I raise my price point by like $25 here, it would have a huge impact on just how
Mm.
spacious my money feels. Like, it's oftentimes like even small little tweaks like that can make
Oh,
a
I love
huge
that.
difference.
I should
Yes.
look at, so my signature program is 375 a month, and I should look at
Mhm.
the numbers if I just bumped it to 397 because I'm like they're no
Yeah.
different. Like,
Yeah.
yeah.
No, yeah. I mean, from a like a pricing psychology perspective, there's no difference in that at
Yeah,
all.
there's no difference. So I should really look. That would be really fun to just see like how much my monthly recurring revenue would go up with just that one little change.
Can we just take a moment though, Liz, and say how fun that would be? Because that's how I want people to feel about their numbers and their business. Like, this
Yeah,
can be fun when you
it
have
can
the
be fun.
numbers
Yeah.
all there to support you, and you get to play and you get to tinker and you get to feel super smart. Like, that's what I want. I want solo entrepreneurs having the framework that allows them to feel really smart, instead of like they're just guessing and winging it, because that is not a long-term growth strategy.
Yeah, and I like to reverse engineer the number first. So when I came up with this offer, I said, what would it look like to have a $4,500 offer with, with the 12-month payment plan? Because I'd never had an offer that high in my business before other than like one-to-one coaching. And I knew that was the price gap that I wanted to close. So I reverse engineered what would I energetically want to do in exchange for that amount of money. And it was so much more fun. And it's honestly been the best offer. And I think that's because normally what we do is we just create something that we want to create. And then we try to say, okay, how much should I charge?
Yes.
But it's a much more fun game to play when it's like, okay, I'm looking at my projections because Dream Money now shows me that to hit my best goal, I just need this much more per year. what kind of offers can I create that would close that 20K margin or whatever it might be. That's like super fun for me.
Yeah, it is fun because you're asking the right questions with the right numbers, right? You're like,
Yes.
how could this look? And there's 9 million ways to make the money that you want.
Yeah.
So let's be clear on the money that you first need and the money that you want so we can reverse engineer the right problem.
Oh my gosh, I love it. And this is so timely for me because I'm going through my coach's like money mindset manifestation program. And I love this metaphor that he just used this morning that's like, there's like a wall between you and like infinite amounts of money. And right now there's like pinholes. We want to
Yeah.
like stretch those out to be like huge portals, like so the money can
Yes.
just flow. And I was like, oh, that's such a good way to look at it. So all morning I've been like, okay, how do I expand my portal? How do I expand my portal? And maybe it's just that little price change that would literally make no difference to my business.
Oh, 100%. I mean, but
Yeah.
that's the thing. It's like if we can't see the impact of it, it's hard to know. And so I
Yeah.
think that's why it's so important. Like that's where the software comes in, right? It's like it's so fun to I can't even explain how fun it is to just dial up a price point or dial it down or increase your sales goal or dial that down. Like just see how these little
Yeah.
tiny decisions have a huge impact on getting you
Yeah.
closer to your dreams. Like it's mind-boggling to me, but also it's just you just feel like such a badass CEO. It's just so good.
Yes. Oh, and I'm totally here for that. Well, I'm so excited because I know you and I are going to continue to collaborate and partner together and
Yes.
get, Dream Money in front of my people because I just know that they need it. And this has literally been a gap in my program of like, how can I put the best possible situation in front of them for their money? Because I'm like, I know how to budget and here's how I budget, but I don't even do the rest of the things that Dream Money does. So we'll do it together.
I'm so, so excited. I mean, and our community is just so great. Like our community is full of just very driven entrepreneurs who want to create a beautiful life for their families. They want to contribute meaningfully in the world. They also want to feel like really confident when it comes to money. And we get to
Yeah.
do all of those things and be like really strategic about the decisions we're making in our business. It's just a great space to be a part of.
It feels like to me like this like feminine version of Profit First, but like Profit First doesn't really teach you how. It's just like here's the buckets that you want to use and it's very to me it felt very like corporate, where this
Yes.
feels like no, this is for the women solopreneurs or small teams that are literally just figuring it out from the ground up.
Yes, and I mean, Profit First, I think is one super brilliant. I also think that Profit First, the reason that we have so many different buckets is because for people who are under 3 mil a year, which is that's who we're serving, which is the grand
Mhm.
majority of women-owned businesses,
Mhm.
when we're operating on very, very tight margins at
Yeah.
3 mil or under a year, right? And so that's why it's so important because even having a 1 to 2% difference in one of your margins can have a huge impact on how your money is feeling, right? But if
Mhm.
everything's kind of lumped all together, it's really hard for us to see it. And so that's why delineating the things that we really need to see for like small businesses like us makes all the difference.
Yeah, yeah. Oh, so beautiful. I love your mission. I'm so glad that I met you. Thank you so much
Same.
for being here. So tell everybody like how they can get their hands on Dream Money. We're going to put all of
Yes.
that in the show notes and how they can find you.
Yes, super easy. Go to dreammoney.co, not .com, .co, and then you can choose either quarterly or yearly. I definitely encourage yearly if you can swing it because it does get you 2 months free and you get those two calls. The first is the onboarding migration call we talked about, but the second is a scaling session with me where I will look over your whole entire business model and say, hey, if we make some tweaks here and tweaks there, this is going to create so much more sustainability in your business.
Yes, I love that. Okay. And then do you have a favorite social platform? Do you hang out anywhere?
I am getting more active on Instagram. Finally, it's something I've been talking about for years. It's always been at like the bottom of the list, but I am starting to be more active over there. We have Dream Money Co as our handle for the platform, but I'm most active for my content over at Megan Hale Co.
Okay. Okay. Got it. Megan Hale Co. And I'm excited about Dream Money. I'm gonna make sure that I get in there too and all the things.
Yes,
And you're
come
just
join us.
wonderful. And I can't wait. I know there's like so much more to come. So thank you for being here today.
Oh, of course. Thanks for having me. I'll see y'all soon, y'all.
Yes. All right, friends, that wraps up our episode with the amazing Megan Hale of Dream Money. Don't forget to go over to our show notes at elizabethhenson.co/E212 to find all of Megan's links, to connect with her, to make sure you sign up for our demo all about Dream Money. And you can also go to elizabethhenson.co/Dream Money if that's easier for you to remember. But we'll put everything you need in the show notes. Episode 212. Thank you so much for being here. We love you guys. I will see you at the demo. Thank you so much for being here and pushing play today. It absolutely means the world that you have found this podcast or found this YouTube channel, and we wouldn't exist without you. So if you're curious about finding your next step in business, don't forget to take our next step action quiz at elizabethhenson.co/next. And if you love this podcast or you love this channel, make sure that you hit that subscribe button, share it with a friend, or leave us a review. It truly means everything. And if you have a question or a barrier in your business, we are starting a new series where we're going to be coaching live on air and taking questions and using them as inspiration for the podcast. All you have to do to submit your question, or if you're interested in being a guest on the podcast, is go to elizabethhenson.co/ask. Again, that is specifically if you are open to being vulnerable and sharing about your business and being coached live on air. We hope to hear from you. All right, I'll see you guys next week.